Welcome. This is the first episode of Strata Unscripted. I'm Tom Beatty, and this is Catherine Olson. Hey, Catherine.
Hey!
So we get to talk about all things Strata, and this week, a topic landed in our laps. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I went on a bit of a rant on LinkedIn last week. I've had a lot of no's the last year, which, just digression, I was telling someone at barbecue on Friday, the no's are what make you sharper because every single no I've gotten from someone makes me level up in knowledge. So, like this one, for example, was BC Housing said no to professional development accreditation for a Strata 101 for multiplex developers. So that's like duplexes, triplexes, multiplexes that are registered as strata corporations at the time they're built. Those multiplex developers know nothing about registering stratas or how to set them up properly for long-term governance, etc. And no one's teaching them. Anyways, I wanted to get this course accredited, and they said, no, that's too strata. It's not builder related enough. It's not relevant. And I swear to God, in the conversation, I actually said on the phone, I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, great, thank you. Now I guess I just have to learn the the Homeowner Protection Act line by line too. Because that's kind of the attitude. It's like, okay, a no just means I need to level up now. So that's
Well,
what
I
happened
think
this week.
it's about getting it on target and aligned because they're builders, they're not strata experts, but they're building a strata and they should understand strata just to that perspective. Because as I was talking about with David Locke a few weeks ago, larger communities have a strata manager that helps with this transition from developer to owners. But when you've got a small multiplex, you don't have the benefit of a strata manager and it's developer to owners. And those owners, well, depending on how small it is, become the strata council. And that thus they need to know. There needs to be some passing of a baton. And there are some requirements that apply even to small stratas that I think those builders need to understand.
Yeah.
So, what is it that you're hoping to teach them and make them understand as they're developing their first multiplex and preparing to turn it over to owners?
You know, I am cognizant to the fact that the primary goal of builders is going to be to exit the project profitably, right? I don't want to take that away from them. I'm not suggesting that that not be the case. However, I think that there's a middle ground in which the product that's sold can be solid. And when consumers, homeowners are buying those multiplexes, they are assuming when it's stamped off by all the various authorities that it's good to go, that it was set up correctly, that the people who were doing it knew what they were doing. But if these builders have no access to education and it's not even considered as part of the criteria or the list of things to look at, because the very entities themselves don't understand what stratas are, then how on earth are those builders just going to divine from their own heads, I think I should just brush up on strata before I do this project out of nowhere without prompting, right? Um,
Yeah, nobody's going to do that.
no, right? And so the goal, even with doing this, was like, I've observed a gap. I have clients that come to me that have literally never had an AGM in 30 years, do not have a CRF set up at all, period.
Right.
Um, that's problematic. And that started from day one. That started before day one when they bought in. And that's so not fair. So the goal was just, hey, let's educate you on the fact that your product that you're building and selling is a strata. And here are the bare minimum requirements not to send a crapshoot of governance to the homeowners that inherit it, and to protect you as the builder, from liability and the risks surrounding that, both legally, financially, etc. So it is mutually beneficial, like education usually is, to be honest. I've
Yes,
very
absolutely.
few
And
times see education not be that way.
no developer who is obviously seeking profit and to do good or to build is disinterested in the opportunity to decrease their future obligations by creating a proper handoff. So, I mean, the purpose of this discussion is not to kind of go through all of the formalities about what this is or to educate them. But I did want to say that there is a big difference between these stratas that are 5 units and less, which is what we're talking about today, and the larger ones, which are subject to the Real Estate Development Marketing Act. So they are still not in that category, but they are obligated to do a number of different things to set that strata off onto the right start. And one of those would be preparing that interim budget. So they have to do that. And how many of them do? I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be a part of the agreement to purchase and sale. So I hope that they're doing that. They're also supposed to fund the CRF to the minimum requirement now, which is what, 10% of operating
10%.
expenses.
Yeah.
Um, so and to start to prepare for that, initial, for larger buildings, at least the depreciation report fund. And
Well, in
that's
the
something
first
that's going to be important.
AGM as the handover, not just the handover, but the education piece for the owners and the elections. So if there's no AGM, there's no first council. So technically that developer left those buildings without a council even. That's pretty bad
True.
form.
That
Like
is
it's
bad
just
form.
we're not talking crazy advanced strata for, airspace parcels and things like that. We're talking basic education for people who are building multiplexes. Because I mean, I was even asking my aunt and uncle when I was telling them passionately about this. And they looked at me and they're like, "Oh, our duplex is registered as a strata. We don't have a CRF either. We've never had an HEF." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I saw some numbers pulled by Property Flute this week saying that probably about half, like about over 15,000 registered strata corporations are probably duplexes, triplexes kind of size. And that probably means that most of those are not compliant with the legislation. I would argue 99%. Not based on
Yes.
any data though.
No, but there's clearly this long tail of smaller stratas that is going to continue to grow as the zoning requirements change and as tastes change, and those communities need to be catered to better, and there needs to be a better system. I think Ryan Grant from Property Flute and BC Stratotech also mentioned that there's no registry that will allow you to see when they last filed or when they last had an AGM or who the board of directors or the Strata Council would be here in BC to compare with what you've got in other markets. And that leaves another hole as well. And it's not that everything in the world needs more regulation. It really doesn't. But there needs to be some way for these communities to make sure that they're complying with the legislation and not
Well, and
outside.
big picture, let's just look that legislation, red tape, bureaucracy. That's not just like some, unknowable ghost entity of bad people that want to take money away. That's the public interest in protecting the everyday people who are buying. And it's usually necessitated by things that have happened that have hurt the public in the past. So let's not vilify regulation either. Like, I don't want to go either way. I just want to kind
Yeah,
of say,
no,
like, we
I think
gotta,
that's fair.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
used to being regulated. I'm not regulated at the moment. I don't think I need to be regulated at the moment. The regulators, of course, would like to regulate me at the moment. It's one of those wonderful spheres of life where if you're doing something, what was it? I think Reagan had the best quote for this, right? Like it was something about if you
You're
if
doing
it
something fun.
if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. Was that his line? I think.
I don't
And
know,
it
but I
does
love
seem
that. That's
it does seem
hilarious.
to be the way the government actually works. So, and I mean, regulations are there for the right reasons, and they are meant to
It should be.
protect
Yeah.
people, and ordinary people.
Yes.
So that's what it's designed to do. So what's next, Catherine? You've been given the not yet or not now. How do we turn that into something that?
And as they so delightfully invited me or welcomed me, well, you're welcome to create that on your own. So I will. There's a lot of different pieces of education that I'd like to develop.
Yeah.
Some in conjunction with other parties. Like I am so open to collaboration. Through the research and investigation I've done over the last 6 months, I just see so many amazing but siloed efforts. And I also see where some of those siloed efforts are not even playing to the strengths of those entities. And there's so many things that different entities, associations, brokerages, organizations do really well. And if they all would just kind of maybe build up a network of trust and collaboration with each other a little differently, and maybe worked a little bit more on working with each other rather than trying to hide from each other, there'd be some really cool things I think that we could do in this industry,
Agreed.
because there's a way more effort started than I think that people realize. A lot of really cool stuff. So
No,
um,
that's exciting,
yeah,
and trying to get parties that have competing interests. Sometimes they're aligned, sometimes they are competitive. To move in the same direction is difficult, but as we keep talking about on all of our sessions here, transparency and good communication are important for advancing everyone's common interest, and it reduces a lot of that speculation about why something's happening the way it is. So the
yeah.
more you can build in public, the more you're able to share what you're doing and learning with others. Hopefully, it'll buy greater endorsement and encourage others to align with you in creating more, more
Well, and just
tools.
maybe even to question what they want to build and what personality they're creating within their culture and their company, and how to lean even more into it, like with passion and joy. Because I think that's what I'd like to also see more come of my industry, is for there to be, there's a place for everybody. There is actually so much business out there, and there's so much need for strata managers and for education and for strata related contractors. There literally is enough work for everybody, um, if we can figure out a way to get along.
So, I mean, I don't want to fully change the subject, but we've talked about the shortage in strata managers, and yet we're aware of the fact that there is an abundance of recently licensed, not yet employed strata managers looking for roles.
Yeah.
What's with that?
I think that you already can see this in the bigger global market scale of employment, I think, and there's a real push right now with a lot of companies to automate processes and take out the labor costs, the human costs instead. What you're also seeing in the news circuits is that a lot of those really large tech companies are not seeing the returns on those investments yet, and they're realizing like they have to again still go back and invest again in humans, in training, in education, in people again. So I think that it's gonna be an interesting time to watch how things go.
Yeah,
I don't
exciting
know, to
times.
be honest. I don't know what's going to happen. It's weird. It's weird to watch an industry that has such a high need for labor also like steadfastly not be hiring at a rate that's needed. And I haven't looked at it today, but I was trying to find the stats for the BCFSA licensees for 2025, and I didn't see them online, which was strange because they usually
Interesting.
post them quarterly.
Yeah.
But the numbers had actually like gone down slightly, and then I have a feeling that number is even worse, to be honest. So I don't know. It's
Right.
a weird paradox.
As a company that's always trying to use technology to do more and to do better, I can certainly understand the desire for these companies in property management to leverage tooling and technology to be more efficient with what they do, because there's still a great need for human involvement in property management and strata management. And I think as you free up more of their time to do that more efficiently, hopefully you can bring professional management to more communities, because there are a whole bunch out there that haven't had the ability to afford it. And one of the reasons for that is that management firms have a kind of minimum that they're trying to work towards so that they can cover their costs on each new building, because it's a lot. I mean, these strata managers are taking on accounting responsibilities. They're taking on responsibilities relating to the management of the meetings sometimes. They don't do all of the meetings, as you've informed me, but they do a cycle of meetings throughout the year. Um, and I think that technology is going to help free them up to serve more communities and to serve the communities that they do better. And I think that that's something that we should all be looking for from technology. But it really surprises me to see that more of them are not. snapping up the keen and earnest talent that
I,
has answered the call
because
and
when you
taken the training.
replace that time and give them back, it's not that then they're trimming the extra time. They're not giving them that time they've gained to invest in their own education. But not only that, building a really robust system of resources and training so that they can take that extra time they have and now be encouraged and have avenues to invest in it. Like I've been working with Advantage Property Management in the Valley, and we have just run a comprehensive Strata Property Act 101 course with the entire team over 32 weeks. It's been amazing and kind of crazy. The stories for other days. But they don't stop there. They're like building trainer training and specializing in leaseholds on Indigenous held lands and
Oh
all the
yeah.
things that they see as being the future. They're not giving more to their team so that they can load up and still be even more overwhelmed. They're leaving them at the baseline, and with the gains they get to like educate themselves or take care of themselves. um, I love it. It's pretty cool to see. So
Well, yes,
yeah,
and you've done this for a number of different firms.
yeah,
You've trained
yeah,
managers before too. This is a big
yeah.
part of what you do. What's the biggest shortfall that you see in new managers? What do they need to learn that's not in the books?
They just don't they don't. I've said this before, but they don't know what they don't know. And I freely say that about myself as a new manager. I was cocky as hell, and I really didn't know anything. Actually, looking back on myself, like I laugh at myself in my head all the time. Um, and I'm also willing to admit my mistakes openly to people I'm working with in training and tell them how I would do it differently, which is pretty rare in this industry of very delicate egos. Um, but I've also gone through now training so many times that I've seen where they all stumble and it's all the same things. And you have to just approach it in a way that makes it safe for them to make those mistakes. So, I noticed that you are, organize your emails like this, or I noticed like how are you prioritizing your number one tasks for your buildings? Like show me your Outlook calendar, show me your directives, things like that. And putting them on the spot, but when they don't have that stuff done, just like kind of smiling, giving them the safe space, like, hey, we've all been there. You're not alone. But now I'm gonna hold you accountable and you need to like get this done this week or get this done this week, and
Right.
being that safe space for them and knowing already where they're going to fall down, and to create some nice soft, like a soft landing place, but also some guardrails to get them back up without making the same mistakes. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think most of us, when we start our careers in whatever field, we struggle with the urgency versus importance problem. And
Yeah.
often, I would imagine in strata management for younger managers, the squeaky wheel is getting more grease because it's so squeaky and you just want it to stop. And
You could spend
it
your
feels
whole time
urgent.
in your email and not do your job, to be clear.
Right. Right. And I know that that's what some of the technology that's out there is trying to help resolve, both from big companies and from independent platform providers. They're trying to help with the low level inquiries and noise to automate some of those
Okay,
easy
but there's also that
responses.
thing that I can't remember what the name of the thing is, but when you have a task, it fills to the time you give it. Now,
Oh,
I would
yes.
argue that if you take away all the input from all the clients to AI, they'll just expand their needs to fill the extras, like the gains you've given them. So I don't think, based on what I know of human patterns and nature and interpersonal dynamics, that too much automation is going to make anything better regardless. That way I feel like they'll just have another avenue. Like now they're going to AI it and email you and fax you and phone you and text you and go
I
through
sure hope
the
not. But
platform online and knock on the council member's door.
I think there's a
So
lot that is noise that can be reduced and leave you with more signal. And I think that's what I'm hoping that technology will
for
do.
the
I mean,
strata managers though, focus on making their experience better. Because if you make
oh,
the
for sure. But you
strata
don't want to get the
managers
question
experience
about
better,
whether or not they can have this dog. Like you could have the answer fed to them that you're allowed to have up to two dogs or two cats or one dog or one cat. And
you'd be surprised though, but
that
then
just
when
makes
Bob
sense.
gets an answer from the robot he doesn't like, do you think he's going to stop there?
I mean, at least Bob has the answer he's looking for. He might contest it, but that's a different matter than him not being able to get the answer. Um, you know, I think you're right. Human nature is such that you're going to want to get the dog that you wanted, even if it is oversized or the breed that's not allowed. But
I just don't think it's
yes,
gonna AIing the client experience in Strata is not necessarily gonna give all that the industry thinks it's going to give. And if they focused more on like the product that's being delivered is the strata managers, focus on their experience and make that great, and not just make it great in the moment, make it great for them as a career. Like people want to give their career here, because
yeah,
it's also like a really stagnant job. Like you can't, there's very limited upward growth, there's not that many leadership positions, etc. So like if
right.
you're going to stay put, you're going to stagnate. All you can do is have more buildings, which is just okay. Now yeah, maybe you're that person that's like, I want all the money. Okay, more buildings, more money, sure. But like for most of us that's not enough. We need purpose. So like if you make it a career where there's in like investment in care and the culture, and it's a, like training and education, and you're encouraged to develop niche specializations. Like yeah, we have the most widely niche educated team. We got Bob who does airspace parcels, and Sally who does sections, and so and so
Yeah.
does HOAs and HOCs, and they all have been independently like trained and educated, and they spend their time going to related association events and all this cool stuff. Like imagine if that was how our industry was. Like that would be so cool. And
And
then yeah.
there are enough communities because there are, well, 13,000 plus large stratas and over 30,000 in total across this province, that there are enough things that you can build those domain expertise across different things. Like the number that have dock facilities because they're on a lake or on the ocean.
And I
Those
think
have,
anyone who's over on the island and you're dealing with island trust and stuff like that, that's a whole other piece of bureaucracy
yeah.
that those strata managers would deal with. Like there's so many
So
cool things that you could specialize in BC strata. And I'm such a nerd about strata. I want to inspire others to be the same. But in order for me in good faith to bring people in, it has to be an industry I want to bring my friends into. And I can't be like, oh my God, come here, it's gonna be so great, except for not. I'm so
yeah, I
sorry.
mean,
Like, I want it
on
to
our
be
first
great when
call,
they're here.
we talked about how tough that job is and how it's perceived. And you know, I don't think my view on that is going to change no matter what happens with technology. I like the angle that you're pushing. I like the fact that we need to focus on the managers because I think better informed managers will do a better job for the communities that they serve. I'm an advisory board member of Strata Press, and a lot of their effort in technology is on the manager. And they've developed some really cool map views that will allow the manager to see their portfolio and the managing broker to see the whole portfolio. And they're ranking the issues, not just by urgency, but by importance, so that the
Cool.
manager knows which buildings they need to pay attention to that day, that week. And so does the managing broker, so that they can provide better guidance and better oversight and help the managers that are overloaded, help those that are inexperienced. And I think that that's one step that's definitely in the right direction with technology because you can enable them to see. Because I don't know how many times, Catherine, when you've asked the new manager how are things going, and they've sort of just hit it and said it's okay, I'm good. Or
Well,
I mean,
actually,
maybe
it's
you that
more when I
aren't, but
ask them, like, they're like, I've had so many emails from this building, and I'm like, how much is that client paying you? And they're like,
yeah,
oh, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you haven't set up your dashboard yet. Now, I have a dashboard
yeah,
I do in Excel, and it's a lot of
good.
work to set it up every time I change portfolios or buildings. So to hear that StrataPress is just gonna like have that created for me is super cool. Love that. But also like when a company focuses on the user experience and the tech stack of the workflow of a strata manager, they will make the exponential gains they'll see from those strata managers is crazy. Like for example, the sales doc process, like processing form Bs and Fs, depending on the brokerage you're at as a strata manager, that can be like the worst in the world, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like you could have to
and it
fill out
can be
everything in Adobe
almost entirely
yourself.
automated.
and like initial it on every page, but then you have to verify all the information and this and that. Whereas like there are a couple programs that I have to shout out. Welcome Link was one of the best programs I've ever used for sales docs. Now I've heard it's not great on every user's platform side, but for the
Mhm.
Strata Manager, it was like the best. So
Right.
I always like to hear when certain companies are not just doing what they think is trendy or what the owners like or what the brokerage likes, but like what is the person actually using that piece of technology gonna, how does it make it easy, fun, enjoyable, attractive for them, the Strata Manager, and you will win with
It's not
that.
just the manager either. You got all these self-managed stratas. As we found out, there are many more
Yeah.
self-managed stratas than there are properties
Like
that
what was
are
it?
managed,
Estimate is like
and they've got pain
75%.
too, right? They
Yeah.
have pain with accounting, they have pain with communication, they have pain with all sorts of things, and being able to address those concerns, and even the generation of Form Bs. I mean, that is even more painful if you're self-managed, because you got
I
to do
love
it
hearing
yourself as
about
a
all the
volunteer
handwritten.
director, right? Like they are, but I will say that even the largest firms, when they have their Form B, and I've looked at my fair share of Form Bs, often there's just a squiggle at the signature. It's like, well, who signed this?
And
I have
did
no
they
idea who
actually
signed
look
that.
at all the numbers and verify them? Because there have been times where forms get signed off because the process just to sign and do all the initials on every page is so annoying. They're not also then going to go into 5 different folders to verify this and that. Like, I am so at this point in my career aware of what I'm signing off on that if there's a set of minutes that I have not yet released or the council hasn't released, but that the meeting happened, I make sure to note to the requester,
Right.
meeting happened on, August 17th, minutes will be released in 2 weeks per requirements of the Strata Property Act. I want them to know I'm hiding nothing from them because I don't ever like the liability personally and professionally to a strata manager and the brokerage related is actually way bigger than what people
I've heard
realize. Like
this. I
under
didn't
per
realize.
17, it's a criminal offense to mislead prospective sales, like on
Right.
certificates of strata corporation.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much headspace that consumed in the minds of strata managers, the whole liability aspect. The fact that yes, they have policy through work, but many of them take out their own personal policies, and it weighs on them. And I didn't really think that was,
Well, the
I wasn't
disciplinary
aware of that.
actions and the names being publicly put onto the BCFSA website, there's individual fines to that licensee and to the brokerage. And there could be, if they were shown to be negligent and the insurance or, they're deemed to be not covered, that could be something that falls to them as a liability. There's just so many, I think back and I think, oh, I'm so glad. I just gotta like fingers crossed the statute of limitations runs out on a few forms that I signed a few years ago that I definitely didn't read over carefully. But anything I've signed in the last while, I'm really good
Right.
with. So
And what was that? Was that being overworked? Was that
it
being
was
naive? Was
totally
it
being
being improperly
overwhelmed.
trained?
Yeah,
Right.
no, I had to look into 10 different files to find all these different pieces of information. And I have that many forms a day and I have this many buildings and forms end up being the lowest priority because I got all these other things to get to, even though they're one of the most important tasks in risk. It just, there are times where I know as a strata manager, I did not fully read the whole form before I signed off on it and verify every piece of information. And that, when I think about myself back in time, that like
Yeah.
scares me for her. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn girl, you are so lucky you didn't get into worse trouble with some of these just drop the ball on things or get overwhelmed or, whatever it is. And I also have to have grace for her because I know how overwhelmed she was in that moment and that I was doing my best with the education and the knowledge and the tools I had. And I certainly wouldn't make those same mistakes anymore. And I do
Well,
my best to be sure not a single trainee that crosses my desk ever misunderstands the risk associated with those forms now.
the
Like,
good news
yeah,
is that more of the Form Bs are getting automated, and as the tools advance, the ability for those to be completed more easily so that your job is to verify rather than to dig in 10 places for the information that you need,
The
it goes
problem
up.
is, hold on, so how do you compile the information though? So like if the information though that's being input is incorrect or missing, which often happens, then those forms can still be just as negligent.
They
So
could
I'm
be.
like,
I mean, the
I
goal was
just,
to set
yeah,
each building up with complete records and to tie in
yeah.
the accounting system so that you're not fishing for the latest CRF fund balance, for example. So you've got the correct parking space and you're describing that appropriately, whether that be limited common property or otherwise. So I mean, I think it's all about the setup, but you got to have the tools in place to do it first. And I think both of those things are coming together. I guess the other comments I would make about the Form B is that it's way too cheap for the liability that is
I
assumed.
literally cannot believe that they've never raised those prices. That's insane. Considering how much work goes into that, $35 for a Form B, and if a strata manager is doing it properly, and you think of all the people that touch it to
Yeah,
prepare it,
yeah.
that is wild. It's not even covering the
It,
labor to do it at
it's been a
all.
quarter century, right? Like
Yeah,
things need to change. On the flip side, it no longer costs 25 cents a page to copy documents, and the strata managers are charging based on digital
good.
pages for delivery. So they kind of are making up their undercharge on the Form B on the documents, which are in
You know, the margins
99.9% of
are
cases in Dropbox
margins
or
are
Syncrusi.
slim though for strata brokerages too. I do have to say. So they gotta make their
Yeah.
money somewhere.
No, it's true. I hear about that all the time.
Yes, yes. Poor
Which is
brokerages.
tough. I mean, that's why so many managers are working so many buildings. Nobody wants to pay what the work costs. If you look at what strata management costs in BC versus for what they pay for management in Ontario,
Yep.
there's a big difference. And I think in BC we've gotten away with expecting and accepting fairly low fees and
Threshold
fairly
of
low standards
standard.
of care and oversight.
Well, they have education that's mandatory too. And we have something in BC that they don't have, and that's the ability to learn from their mistakes. Because the only thing I'd say that Ontario does right is they have Strata Council education, but it's not offered in any other language but English, and it's only offered online. There's no specializations of different branches. It's really, really basic click through kind of thing. So, yes, they have it, but we could put together something so much better here in BC. And there's so many like half started efforts at this kind of project that
Right.
I really hope to see join together in the very near future. So we'll see. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Well, should we call it and do this
Before
again
we
next week?
call it, I have to share
Yeah.
because we were shout out to Design Roofing. They had their annual charity barbecue on Friday. It was piss pouring rain,
That was
and
awful.
they were out there, and it was amazing. And so great job, Design Roofing. It's in
That was for Make a Wish.
Make a
We raised some
Wish.
good money for
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
and
And they were doing caricatures, so we got them to do Stratagal and Tom. I had to share this
there we go.
because Tom
Actually, it
was
was the first
totally
time we met in
mortified.
person.
He hated every moment of that experience, and so I had to share it online.
It's true. It's true.
So, yeah.
Well, it was good fun, and it was for a great cause. So applause to them, and
Yeah.
pretty encouraged by that turnout despite the inclement weather.
And they're an amazing group of people. If you weren't able to make it out because you were scared away from the rain, you should definitely go online and donate to Make a Wish on their behalf. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good call. All right. Well, the sirens are calling.